Episode number 9, Living Fearlessly with Courage. Have you guys ever had a moment where you were doing something in your life and, whether it be you were doing something that was kind of out of the box for you or something that, that you would have made you proud or would have made you happy with what it is that you did with yourself or whatever it might be. But then when you started to think about it, you kind of talked yourself out of it and you wondered, is this going to be something where people are going to judge me, or are people going to approve of this? How many people are going to like this? How many people are going to dislike this? And you almost sort of overthink yourself out of what it was that you were going to do. I've had those moments before. It's happened with my book. It's happened when I was in a band, when I was a musician. It's happened when I was a photographer. It's happened with this podcast. There's been a few moments where I've gone through and I've kind of stutter-stepped a little bit, for lack of a better term on that one, but where I've kind of stutter-stepped, skipped over myself and kind of doubted myself and over, I always call myself a classic overthinker. So I did this, this thing where I would overthink everything that I would do. And, some people would say it's a good thing where I think of every possible outcome, but I kind of look at it as something that's kind of limiting me. That's one of the big challenges that I have to get over. And so I find myself a lot of times overthinking something, or I find myself going over something multiple times in my head and thinking of every possible outcome, and then I end up psyching myself out of it. A lot of it is just because I am worried people are going to be disapproved of what it is that I'm doing, or are people going to like what it is that I'm doing? Are people going to like this podcast? Are people going to like my book? Are people going to approve of my book? Are they going to think that I was capable of doing it? Whatever it is, but that's kind of a combination of a lot of things. A lot of it is going to be the fear. A lot of it is going to be, I guess you could say my overthinking. A lot of it is going to be I had a negative mindset, or I allow negativity into my mind. But I think a big part of that is courage. So what is courage? To me, courage is the ability to accept who you are without any shadow of a doubt. Courage is when you can be yourself no matter what anyone else says about you, regardless of what it is that you're doing. Courage is moving fearlessly forward in your life with an undying passion for what it is that you want to do. So, like for me, one of the things that I gave up on, and I wouldn't say that I gave up on it. I guess I should say I gave up 100% of my effort towards it, but I used to be big into photography. I was more of like a landscape photographer, or I did a little bit of like that model shoot type of stuff, but when I did my photography, it was mainly landscape shots or going out and doing like cityscapes, things like that, and that was the stuff where I feel like there's a lot of overlooked art in the structures and in nature and in the city life, and so I wanted to go capture that. And a lot of the stuff that I did from friends and relatives was, oh my gosh, you have some great work, you take some great shots. In my mind, I'm thinking that's to be expected because you're family and friends. You want to support me or whatever. You want to fluff me up a little bit and be like, Spencer, you're doing great work. But in my mind, I'm like, is it really that good? Is my photography really good because my mom says it's good, or is it good because it's good? So that was something that that was a big issue with me. Is I had this lack of courage and confidence in my ability to be a solid photographer. And so when you have the ability to defy others, or defy what others would say is impossible. So if somebody says, it's impossible for you to go and, when I was in a band, people said it was impossible for me to pretty much make it anywhere with it. And what I ended up doing is, I remember there was one time I was in this band. It was a local band, and we had this huge opening of this building in a nearby city. It was a neighboring city to us, but we share streets and stuff. But we had this big opening, and my band was offered to play, and of course we accepted. We wanted to do the show, and we went out and we started practicing, doing all this stuff. Come to find out that the band Smash Mouth was playing, and we had the ability to open up for Smash Mouth, which was kind of cool. It wasn't this huge event, but it was, you know, a band like Smash Mouth who's been featured in a lot of movies, was a big hit in the 90s, and then we were able to open up for them. You know, that was kind of one of the things where a lot of people said it was impossible for us to be able to do something like that, and we made it happen, you know. So when you see a flower growing through a crack in the sidewalks, you know, this, I think this might be like a good metaphor or something for you guys to kind of think about. But imagine if you're walking down the street, even weeds, you know, when you see a weed growing through the sidewalk, or those pictures, those iconic pictures you see on the internet where you see the rose or the flowers growing through the crack in the sidewalk, and there's, you know, it's in the middle of the city, whatever it is, that right there is courage. The flower is growing because it needs to. The flower is growing because it has to grow to live, to survive. No matter where it is, no matter what obstacles are in its path, it grows because it needs to. The flower is defying the odds that were stacked against it. It grew where the layers of cement that were there, it grew between those so that it could reach the sun. That right there is courage. I know that the flower doesn't have a brain or anything like that, but the fact that the flower is able to defy what any other plant wouldn't necessarily be able to grow through, or what you wouldn't expect to see a plant grow through, and it grew through it, that is courage in itself. That's an example of courage in nature. When you experience fear, but you choose to act rather than cower and hide, that is courage. When somebody says, hey, do you want to come out and speak in front of this group of people, or, you know, do you want to, for me, do you want to play in this band and open for Smash Mouth? I could have turned and ran the other way and said, oh my gosh, no way. I could have let fear consume, but I had to have the courage because it was something that I wanted to do. You know, when you get up there, and it's almost like you know, if any of you guys, I'm sure everybody's seen it, but if you guys haven't, it's the movie Bambi. But there's, you know, the little deer with the shaking legs and all that stuff. It's, you know, I had my little Bambi legs going on stage and shaking and whatnot. So it's, you know, I had fear in the moment, but pulling through and being able to be up in a place where most people would probably give up and say, I can't do this, I'm too scared, or I'm too afraid of being judged. You know, courage is huge. I feel like that's a big overlooked step, is that a lot of people give up when it's too soon. So when you have the courage to do something, it's almost like in the previous episode of the podcast when we're talking about you know, fear and overcoming that, and its ability it gives you the ability to learn and grow and move up from where you are at in the current position you are in life. But courage is needed to win at life. You know, you kind of remain stagnant, you remain stuck if you don't experience courage, if you don't use courage to move to that next level. Everybody's afraid to move up. That's a common thing, and it's okay to be afraid to move up or to want to do something because it's out of your comfort zone, but you need to have the courage to be able to do it. You must follow your heart and chase your passion. You must. You need to do what you love. And a lot of people out there, there's a lot of people that I watch online. I watch their videos, the mentors that I like, and some of them I've heard them say, and I don't know if I agree with it, but some people say, don't do what you love. Not everybody can do what they love, which may be true. Not everybody can do what they love, you know, at least as a career. Some people might be able to, or might not be able to be, you know, a professional painter because they might not be able to survive off of the wages they might make as a professional painter. You know, for example, an author. Some person might love to write and write books or novels, and, you know, but if they publish them, they might not make enough money for them to be able to live off of that. So it's completely understandable from that point of view. But some of the people that I've listened to have said, you know, not everybody can do what they love. You know, who's going to be a plumber? Who's going to be, you know, the guy who dives down in the sewer and cleans up all the sludge? Who's going to be the trash man? You know, but some people might love that stuff. I don't know. I mean, but the idea is that you need to do what you love, or at least love what you do. Find happiness in those things, and that'll make finding courage much easier when you're going to make those steps. When adversity strikes you, you must rise up and persevere in the face of that adversity. So like if you're going out and searching for that job that you love, and you're trying to get to that next level, and you find yourself kind of stumbling over these certain steps, or you feel like, man, I can't seem to get that next job, or I can't seem to do this or do that. That's adversity. And if you're able to stand up in the face of adversity and keep pushing through and keep fighting for what it is that you want, that is you experiencing and living through courage. So make sure that you continue to nurture that feeling when you feel like you need to keep going, even when it feels like you should give up. Anytime you feel like you should give up, really think about what it is that's making you think about giving up. Is it the heat of the moment, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just failed this, whatever it might be. I just was playing this song in my band, and I missed the last 18 notes because I was too busy shaking, and you just want, you're all shook up and you feel like giving up because of it. Is that the heat of the moment? Like, man, I just need to give up? Or is it something legitimate where you're like, I don't have any talent in this, or whatever it might be, but I could tell you that you can learn regardless, because at the end of the day, if you're consistent and persistent and you're working hard towards what it is that you want, you can learn the skills. So you need to keep at it regardless. So for people who are playing the drums, people who are playing the guitar, people who are painters, people who are authors, whatever it is, you might not be good at it at first, but if you keep pushing and you keep learning and you keep growing, and you use that courage to say, regardless of what it is, I'm going to keep going, that's going to be when you really start to succeed, and you really start to see the fruits of your labor. Stand up for what is right and be true to yourself when it comes to things like that. So, regardless, you should be true to yourself and stand up for what is right. But when it comes to the giving up and having courage, you always need to make sure that you're being true to yourself, because that's what matters most. Break free from the mold and go off the beaten path. It's very easy for us to see the easy way and say, I'm going to take that way because it's the easy way. There's this clear path laid out for me, and I could see the end game down the road, or I could see the finish line, whatever it is. And then there's going to be the place where it's the ups and the downs and the rocky roads, and there's no path, all the weeds and the trees. But there might be, that bigger fruits at the end of the path that wouldn't be normally, the path that's less taken. When you see the fruits that you want sitting off to the side that there's no path to, and then there's these half-eaten whatever fruits on the beaten path that everybody goes down, go for the stuff that you want. If you see something that appeals to your eye, and you want to hustle for that, and you want to go off the beaten path, do it. That's going to be what matters the most. You need to have the courage to be unique. Being unique is huge. So when you follow the beaten path and you're following what everybody's doing, do you think that's being unique? Probably not. So when you are yourself and you have the courage to be yourself, that's when, like I said earlier, that's going to be when you succeed the most. You need to break out of the comfort zone of fitting in the form of what you think you should be, in the sense of, Jimmy's this way, so I need to be this way too because it's working for him. Well, what's working for him might not work for you, so you need to do what is best for you and what you enjoy to do and what you love, because that's going to be when you truly succeed. There's a video that I watched of Steve Harvey, and he was talking about how he knows this guy who he makes something like $800,000 a year as a car detailer. Now, if you think of a traditional car detailer, they usually don't make that much money. You think of somebody that have a little local shop or whatever it is, and they might be making some good money here and there. But when you think of a car detailer and their income is $800,000 a year because they're doing what they love, that is huge. It's because they have a passion for it. They are constantly pushing themselves to learn the most about their industry so that they could be the best at what it is that they do. So that's something that you guys have to think about, is that when you're doing what you love, regardless of what it is, it could be that plumber, it could be the guy who's going and scraping the sludge out of the sewers, it could be the painter, the author, whatever it is. But if you become a master at what it is that you want to do, You find a way to leverage your knowledge, and you find a way to leverage the people around you in the sense of getting the most exposure to what it is that you're doing. You can win. You can win at anything. You know, you could be a professional knitter if that's your passion. Go back to, I forget what episode it was. I think it was either 3 or 4, but it's called The Power of Passion. Think about your passion. If you have a passion for knitting and you're good at it and you have the ability to get some awesome exposure around it, your income is endless on that. So you guys really have to think about that. When it comes to having courage, you need to be yourself regardless of what it is. If your passion is knitting, if your passion is painting, if your passion is being a plumber, if your passion is being a carpenter, if your passion is being a musician, whatever it is, you need to pursue it 100%, because at the end of the day, the courage to push you forward is what's going to break you free from the rat race. When you see everybody that is doing, what they quote unquote need to do, I need to work at this accounting firm just because it pays the bills, but they don't have the courage to go out and do something else with their free time when they get off work. Those are the people that you'll break free from once you start doing what it is that you love, and you'll start seeing an income flow coming from that. So at the end of the day, guys, do what makes you happy, do what you love, have the courage to be yourself, have the courage to move forward and not care about what anybody else thinks. But other than that, guys, that's really all I got for you today. Like I said, please, please, please remember to have the courage. When you're facing adversity, you need to stand up and persevere. Use that courage to beat the adversity down and to keep going regardless of what it is that's happening. But other than that, guys, like I said, if you haven't checked out my book, it's right here. It's The Mental Shift. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on e-reader platforms. It's practically everywhere that you could think of. Definitely pick up a copy, especially if you're trying to figure out how you can get your courage, how you can find your passion, any of that stuff. That's all listed in the book, and I have the steps laid out for you guys to help you figure that stuff out. But other than that, guys, you have yourself a wonderful day, and remember, go out there, shift gears, and live the most positive, happy, and abundant life you possibly can. Thank you, guys.